Catherine McGregor is the person that we trust most about military matters, part of the Sky News Family and CEO program on Friday nights, but she lends us her time right now on what is a very difficult day. Now, Catherine, before I get to what we've talked about a lot, which is about making sure those that have helped Australia come out, and we'll get to all of that in a second. The fundamental failures of how these final moments happened, they are on Biden's watch. Now, yes, there was a trickle down for a long time. Obama at one point, they've all wanted to get out. Biden's the one who has to wear how they got out, though, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think, Paul, the absolute folly of telegraphing the withdrawal to the anniversary of 9/11, I found that a bewildering decision. And at various points in the lead up to this, the failure to provide logistical support to the domestic Afghan Air Force and provide force enablers. It's one thing to talk about the numerical strength of that army and its apparent capabilities, but it required enormous enabling capabilities by US contractors and logistics companies and so on. And that support has dried up. And as you correctly pointed out, many of them hadn't been paid, so there has been combat refusal and desertion on a massive scale, and it ultimately dissolved, basically. And that did not actually surprise me. I wrote in 2016 in the Daily Telegraph that we needed to end this war and get out then. I wrote while I was still serving in the Australian Army, questioning the counterinsurgency so-called strategy. Counterinsurgency is a tactic, not a strategy. The bottom line is that the unipolar moment after 9/11, when the entire General Assembly supported the US, Vladimir Putin was the first person to call George W. Bush. The Taliban refused to hand over bin Laden. Once their training, the AQ, Al-Qaeda training facilities had been destroyed and he had fled, the Taliban were actually glad he had left, and the Taliban neither had global reach nor ambitions. Al-Qaeda, different story. This mission has gone on 18 years longer than it needed to.
Yeah, because put simply, we all remember, those of us, 20 years ago, that we knew America was going to respond to 9/11. Put simply, they were going to bomb something. We all knew that was going to be the case. But, of course, Al-Qaeda, and as we knew with bin Laden, they were up in the hills straight away and then over and protected in Pakistan virtually within 12 months. So you're right about the 2-year mission.
Yeah, the one Australian soldier, Sergeant Russell from the Special Air Service Regiment, who died in February 2002, had we declared victory at the Bonn conference that set up the new Afghan state, we could have exited then completely honourably. And indeed, I adhere to this view and I maintained it inside the army, and I can prove it. Greg Sheridan will document the arguments I had against the counterinsurgency strategy from its inception. I never thought we should have sent provincial reconstruction teams back there. The decapitation of the AQ leadership and the dismantling of their facilities achieved the mission. The Taliban were actually relieved when bin Laden had departed. They were honour bound to defend him as an honoured guest. They wouldn't accept humiliation. They're a proud people, and they wouldn't accept the ultimatum. But they were relieved when he went. And frankly, they would have got about their business of being a medieval society. And frankly, I wouldn't have expended one Australian life or dollar ensuring Afghan girls went to school. I'm terribly sorry to say that, but if their own families don't want them to go to school without niqabs or hijabs, why should we die doing that? And the fact of it is, that is exactly what triggered the revolt against the Soviet Union in Herat in December 1979, when the Babrak Karmal puppet regime tried to secularise the schooling system. These are proud people, and if you read bin Laden's fatwa from 1998, the international call to jihad against Jews and Crusaders, it is a very theological document, probably drafted by Ayman al-Zawahiri, who is still at large. These people genuinely believe in our status as infidels. So they were always going to fight. But the global reach and the global threat was posed by Al-Qaeda, which fled into, as you said, into the tribal areas of Pakistan within months of the very successful operations, when US Special Forces, along with ours, partnered with tribal warlords and belted the Taliban up and drove bin Laden across the border.
Now, for obvious reasons, I can understand why everyone's passions and focus has been about getting the people who helped us out of Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of what we've seen today, in terms of the American embassy literally pulling out as they're at the gates of the decision for Australia to scale down a little earlier in the year, to me now seems to make a lot more sense. But also, can I just make this point, because I understand part of the passion that's out there, right? Australia has taken in 8,500 refugees from Afghanistan since 2013, and the Prime Minister today gave us these numbers of 1,800 people who had helped our security officials have come into the country as part of those refugees. 430 have come in since April of this year. Now, will someone be left behind? Absolutely. Will there be a horrific consequence to that? No doubt. But what are you hearing about those those that have fallen on the wrong side of the line and the capacity to send our troops in? Because obviously right now, the most dangerous job for an Australian member of the ADF is to be flying a plane into Kabul in the next couple of days.
Your point is absolutely well made, Paul. And the fact is, this is best conducted quietly, not by squawking by various grifters and opportunists trying to get in on the act here. The government has announced after the weekend that it will do something. I was disturbed that what should have been highly compartmented information has found its way out at this point, in that some of our special forces are already on the ground there. We've seen footage of other force elements transiting. Now, all I can infer, and I have been talking to Jim Molan, and I've been talking to other people in the government, and I'll leave it at that for the moment. The United States has the weight and authority to do something here. I believe they are still in dialogue with the Taliban, but the fact of it is you need an APOD, an air point of departure. If Hamid Karzai International Airport is subject to interdiction by ground fire, which it undoubtedly is right now, then the candle is not worth the game at this point. What we must do is rely on the United States and the coalition partners. If they're able to secure that point of departure with some degree of certainty, then you can probably run a national evacuation operation, a NEO, which our SF are on standby constantly to do, and we have the limited capability to do it, particularly with the United States Marines contingent and the 6,000 US troops that are there. However, if it is contested, then all bets are off. And I would personally oppose the risking of another Australian life on this venture. We've gone, as you point out, and no one who is lobbying for extraction of the embassy guards or anyone else is quoting those numbers you've quoted, and Jim Molan gave them to me, and there has been considerable latitude granted in extracting people. There are some at some risk, and there's no nice way around it, because the state has collapsed precipitously. Sadly, that is outside the scope of Australia. We are a middle power, and shooting your way into KIA now in this circumstance is beyond our military capability. It's that simple. If the US have a second track dialogue still going with the Taliban and can arrange safe extraction, so be it. But it's now time to cut our losses. The game is over.
Yeah, I'm with you. Catherine, thank you so much for your passion, for your steadfastness and all of your understanding. You make it really simple in what is endless layers of complexity. Thank you, Catherine.
Always a joy, Paul. Thank you.
She's very good, isn't she? Catherine McGregor. So once again, despite what you may have heard, 1,800 people that have helped Australian troops have been brought out of Afghanistan. Is it everyone? No. 430 since April. Is that everyone? No. But things are where they are right now. So just, if nothing else, that is the truth. And overall, 8,500 people have been given refugee status in Australia from Afghanistan.